Welcome back to the Breaker Bros. And tonight we're going to predict Steelers versus Bengals at, I guess this is technically the first game at Paycor Stadium. I'm not sure. Did you see the graphics on the stadium?
I saw a picture of like the overhead.
It's huge. It's like one whole side.
Yeah, it's like the whole wing thing, right? The overhang.
Yeah, I think they got 10 mil. That looks like a
10 mil. Yeah, we talked about that last time, right?
Yeah,
we were thinking like
8,
7-ish a year for 7 years is kind of like the baseline.
Yeah, but we did confirm it was like a 16-year like agreement, right?
Something like that. I thought I think we ended up where we thought maybe they got 100 million ish, enough to fund a signing bonus for a certain player.
Joe Burrow. Maybe Joe Burrow and
maybe half
Chase.
a Joe Burrow signing bonus. I don't know. I mean, they're a lot, right? What did Russell Wilson get? Was it like 150, 160?
That was his signing bonus?
I think.
Okay, yeah, I guess it would only take care of the signing bonus. But yeah, I mean, I think the earliest they can negotiate, which I'm sure they're going to try to sign him right away, would be, was it March of next year? So
I don't know. It's been a while since we looked it up. Oh, it says 50 million. What did I say? 160?
Yeah.
Never mind. But the guaranteed, 165 guaranteed. Is that's the weird thing, right? Like the teams have to put like the full guaranteed amount in escrow.
Yeah, so that's whatever is guaranteed that's what's sent to the league, and yes, it's
right. So you need the cash on hand when you sign it. So it doesn't matter if the player gets it initially or not. So it should cover. It definitely should cover a signing bonus then, maybe around there.
Yeah, I'm sure they're accounting
maybe
for
not all the cash they need to send to the league office if they want to re-sign Joe.
I mean, the writing's on the wall, so I'm sure it's to account for Burrow and I guess if possible Chase, because those two contracts are going to be huge. I would imagine the time that Burrow signs it and Chase signs it, it's going to be the biggest contract for their position. So if I had to guess.
Probably, I would think so. I mean, maybe the most in total money, probably not the most in guaranteed money, because I think like the Bengals are, on the poor side of the league, right? Like, so I don't think they can guarantee money like other teams can, just because of the escrow rule, right?
Yeah, I mean, I wonder how much money they saved up over the years to prepare for this type of stuff. It seems like they would be somewhat frugal and probably have money in the bank, but
I don't know. That'd be interesting. I mean, they're definitely have a reputation for being frugal.
Well, I mean, I get that sense that I just don't see them spending money on like crazy stuff like you would see maybe other owners
what's
in the
crazy
league.
To you?
I don't know, like a yacht that Jerry Jones has.
Well, it's hard to go yachting on the Ohio River.
True. But yeah. I would imagine the yacht that Jerry Jones has is probably somewhere in Florida.
That's true. Probably, right? But I mean, at least Texas has a large body of water, right? You can take the Gulf of Mexico out to,
I just don't see Jerry Jones hanging out in the Gulf of Mexico. I mean, well, not on the Texas side, no.
I think he goes to what is it, Senor Frogs?
Well, you never know.
I mean, he likes Papa John's, right? Maybe.
Is that are they sponsored by Papa John's? I have no clue. I live in Dallas. I probably should know, but
yeah,
I actually keep up more with
Papa John's commercials. I think we talked about that last year.
I don't know. I don't really watch TV like that. I'm usually on YouTube, if anything, if I'm watching something.
Okay. All right.
But
can we pull that up?
Pull what up?
Pull up Jerry Jones Papa John's commercial. I'm pretty sure he has one.
Yeah, you're probably right. I would take your word for it. But as far as like the Steelers, this is gonna be an interesting game. I think the only thing that scares me is that I don't want to be like overly confident, because I just remember being in the past where it kind of feels this way, where we should just dominate all the way around, and it just doesn't really go our way. But I kind of felt like that last year, and to your point, when we did our prediction video for the season, it seemed like we just had our way with him, and I don't see what they did over the offseason to get much better. I mean,
They
they
got
had.
Mitchell Trubisky.
But is he really better than Ben Roethlisberger?
I don't know. I
Maybe
mean,
from like,
career-wise, hell no, but I don't
well,
know.
maybe
Like the
from like
last
an
year, Ben
athletic standpoint, if
Roethlisberger,
you're someone that's
he's
running for their
faster.
life, yeah, he might be better. But I don't think
He can
he can
probably throw it
command a
harder than
huddle.
Ben Roethlisberger.
Possibly, but like I said, maybe from an athletic standpoint, but like between the ears, I don't see it, and like from like a leadership standpoint, I think that's what Ben Roethlisberger had. Is that, I think looking back, the wheels definitely fell off, but it was kind of commendable that he was able to do as much as he did at the state of where he was. So
Mm-hmm.
the fact that they, I guess, made it to 500. Wait, they didn't make the playoffs last year? Or wait, they
I
did.
don't know. Should we look up the Steelers' record from last year?
We should.
Is that useful? I'm gonna Google it.
I feel like they did make the playoffs.
2021 season. Maybe there's like a season recap on the 2021 Steelers. They were second in the AFC North.
Right.
Their record was there's a Wikipedia.
I think they made
Their
it because
was
remember
9-7-1.
right, because they tied, and that actually ended up getting them in the playoffs, if I remember correctly.
So their team MVP was TJ Watt. They had 4 Pro Bowlers and 2 All Pros. Who are their All Pros? Cameron Hayward, yeah, and JJ Watt. Or TJ Watt, sorry. But I'm looking for playoffs. Regular season. Does not show anything about playoffs. I think they may have missed the playoffs.
Okay. Well, it seems like they were in contention, and I think
I do remember them being in contention. Wait, what does green mean? Does green mean you made the playoffs?
I want to say they lost in the first round, but I could be wrong, or they just missed. But the fact that they even got close was really,
yeah. It says it right in the results. Lost wild card playoffs at Chiefs, 21-42.
Yeah. I mean, that's crazy that even they made the playoffs, and that. But I don't
It's
see what
crazy
they
that
did.
I missed that.
Well, that was the season where everyone thought, okay, well, this is going to be Mike Tomlin's first losing season. Like the wheels were starting to fall off pretty early, but somehow they were like it came down to that game that they tied, and that ended up helping them oddly.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess back to my initial point is that I don't know what they did in the offseason to really get better.
So you're saying the Steelers are either the same or slightly worse?
I think from an off-season perspective, I think they got slightly worse because, yeah, like I said, Trubisky from an athletic standpoint might be an upgrade, but I don't think he has the same mental capacity or the experience that Roethlisberger. Huh?
It's a mental capacity.
Well, yeah, because I mean, experience matters. Like he obviously has experience. He's a veteran, so it's better than putting a rookie out there. However, Ben Roethlisberger had really good experience. Like he'd been to the Super Bowl multiple times, won 2 of them. I think he was an MVP at one point. I'm sure. So like he just had that quality about him where maybe he could uplift people and maybe get them playing at a high rate. I just don't see that with Trubisky. And they really didn't do anything to address their offensive line. Like they added a few pieces on defense that may have made them maybe a little bit better on defense, which I still think is questionable.
So, I'm going through the Steelers draft because I forgot, even though I shouldn't have forgot, that they picked Kenny Pickett in the first round. So obviously he's not going to play much of a factor in the Bengals game. I mean, maybe, right?
He's a first-round pick, which could have potentially been a second-round pick. We don't know because,
the Bengals do have a history of launching Hall of Fame careers due to injury, right? Because I think Brett Favre's first game was against the Bengals, right? Because the starter got hurt for the Packers, and they brought in Brett Favre, and I think the Packers won, and then, Brett Favre went to the Hall of Fame.
So LaShawn McCoy, I hope I'm saying his name right. Is that right? The running back from the Eagles.
Mm-hmm.
He said something in the offseason which was kind of off-putting, but I think he actually meant it as a compliment,
Mm-hmm.
and he said Kenny Pickett, like he sees no difference between Kenny Pickett and Joe Burrow. And I think he meant that as a compliment, not necessarily a slight to Joe Burrow, but everyone took that as a slight because, we see Joe Burrow in a lot different light than I think most of the league has come around since last year and kind of see what we see, but there's still other people that are like, Joe Burrow's overrated or whatever. But there was no doubt from the time that we drafted Joe Burrow that he was going to be the starter. Like, there was just literally no doubt. Like, we knew from the day that we drafted him all the way up to the season that he was going to be the starter.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that they drafted Kenny Pickett early, which in a way could have been, it's not a bad pick for him, and I could see him maybe possibly having success, but the fact that he's just not outright starting is like a clear indicator.
Win the job should end Joe Burrow comparisons, maybe?
Right.
I don't know.
But
Who
I mean,
knows?
it's still early. I mean, people can develop, and just because you don't start right away doesn't mean you have like a low ceiling or whatever. But the point is that he's not that dynamic player that's going to come in and change an organization like a Joe Burrow, right? And he may be that player down the road, but the fact that he's not starting right away, they lost a few receivers.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I guess one I can think of is Juju Smith.
Okay.
Or I guess Juju Smith-Schuster, which is not necessarily the biggest deal, but I just don't see what they did offensively, and I already see groans, especially in the preseason.
Well, they signed two guys. Let's see here.
Who was that?
I'm looking it up. Okay, they signed James Daniels, who's a guard. Thinking, from Chicago. I don't know much about guards from Chicago. I mean, I don't know who this guy is.
Put it this way.
And then they started. They re-signed. Looks like they re-signed their right tackle. So that's not really an ad. They signed a center.
I've already seen Pittsburgh fans like.
So they took the set. They traded to the. Started 7 games.
But their offensive line looks like trash, and that's probably part of the reason why they don't want to throw Pickett out there right away. Is like why
they signed a center and a guard. So I mean, you could argue that they did the same thing as the Bengals.
No, not even close.
Okay, so based on our analysis, do you even know who the center is that they signed?
No.
You just know he's not as good as Mason Cole.
Okay, what's his grade?
I don't know.
Well, to be fair, and I see your point, just because I don't know him doesn't necessarily mean that they're.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about guards and centers, and you don't really pay attention to.
Based off of their play, though, in the preseason, they look like trash. And from like the clips I've seen and just the comments, you can tell that what's really going to carry the team is the defense and possibly Najee Harris. But the problem is that he's got to fight and do like highlight reel type stuff in the backfield just to gain a few yards. Like that's going to wear on you over the course of the season. So the concern I have for the Steelers, which is not really a concern, it's more of like a positive thing for us, is that I just don't know how long their offense can hold up. I can definitely see their defense kind of carrying them in certain situations, but are they going to be able to compete against us for
a light green rating according to PFF, for whatever that's worth?
Yeah, but we got Collins, we got
good,
we got Kappa, possibly the top 5 guard that in the offseason that was actually signable, and then Karras is a big upgrade.
Oh yeah, I'm not.
And then Jonah Williams, he could be an upgrade in the sense that if he has a breakout year, that's an upgrade at left tackle. And from what I can hear, it seems like he's like geared up to do that. So it seems like our offensive line, which was definitely the only thing that was holding us back last year, and somehow we were able to overcome it.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like this could be a good year to be very confident. Hopefully not overly confident. Because to me,
would you pick the record to be again 10-7?
No, 11-7 or 11-6 because there's
11-6. Okay,
which still kind of conservative. You think like, okay, if we took a few steps forward, just based off of getting those young people more experienced, and then actually upgrading the offensive line, which is in turn probably going to help the defense, because the more we can be out on the field wearing out the other defense, the more rest our defense can have. So there's a lot of
the one
assuming
thing I
there.
will say is that, the defense played great last year, especially during the playoffs. And, you know,
And the crazy thing is we have a better defense from what we had in the
but
playoffs.
but we had some injury luck, so
We
I
did.
don't know, But all that being said, it's week 1, so everybody's healthy, right? According to the injury report, there are a few guys who didn't practice, but nobody's like listed as questionable or out, as far as I could see. So, okay.
Well, I see this
So
game kind of.
we're saying like, okay, the Steelers had a weakness at offensive line. You're saying maybe not much improvement over last year. They lost Juju Smith-Schuster. They drafted a bunch of wide receivers. So
Pickens,
they're looking
I
to
will say
replace
that
them.
Pickens, I kind of forgot about that receiver. He looks good. I think he'll be.
Pickens is, I saw him at the Peach Bowl 2 years ago, and I mean he looked like the best player on the field by far.
Yeah, I don't know how he fell to the second round. I really don't.
Well, I think he missed a lot of games in college due to injuries.
Just injury concern, I guess.
Yeah, he's a guy that probably would have been like a top 10 pick had he been like healthy the whole time, right?
Yeah, if you
you're
had
talking
that.
about like a elite guy from Georgia, I mean, he's pretty legit athlete.
Well, that's pretty much why we got. Well, when you talk about grades, they really look at like injury. If you're injury prone, you could be really athletic, but if you have a big injury history, that's a big red flag. And then age is like they go really crazy about that. That's why we were able to get Volson and Zach Carter, is because they're actually kind of on the older end. But the way they performed in the preseason just seems like they probably should have been drafted higher than what they were, because they got to play against some quality opponents. Because we didn't really play our starters at all.
Well, Volson probably suffered too from, like, you remember North Dakota State had like a whole year where they only played like one game, right?
That's true, but I think he's old too. He's like 24 years old, so I think that was the big question mark for him, is like they really like younger players coming out of the league. Young and athletic players is basically what's going to get you drafted in the first round.
Yeah.
Athletic. The biggest concern I have,
right?
Well,
relatively athletic, relative to other NFL players, not to us.
Sure, I mean, yeah, anyone that's close to being in the NFL or in the NFL is way more athletic than what we could ever be or imagine to be, because it's a different animal.
That's the best part about being a NFL fan, right? Is like people go, that guy sucks, right? But like really, it's like, yeah, well, compared to the people he's playing against, but not normal humans.
Yeah, no, it's easy to be I guess a couch warrior. You can always say you could do it better, but until you're taking the snaps or trying to make the catch or trying to make that block, it's really difficult. Like, no doubt, because it's like less than the top 1% of all college athletes make it and stay in the NFL. So it's a very selective group. But really, the biggest concern I see coming into the game is just maybe being a little rusty. So I can see us having maybe a slow start, just because none of our starters really played in the preseason. I think we're kind of doing what the Rams did. We're kind of taking the same approach, where they're not going to risk any of their star athletes in the preseason, which I think is the right thing to do. I think that's just pretty much the new NFL. Why risk someone? Because, for example, J.J. Watt and Deontay Johnson got hurt both in the same preseason game. So, like, why would you even risk
T.J. Watt?
Yeah, sorry, T.J. Watt.
No, I started it.
Started what?
Well, I called him J.J. Watt.
Oh, yeah.
A while ago.
I mean, same difference, right? Like, when they're both playing at the at their highest level, it's like they're freak athletes. So. But I mean, that's to me is where the game is going to be won, is in the trenches, because the only thing that's really going to keep the Steelers in the game is how well they can stop or get pressure, and how well they're going to be able to stop the run. But if we go in there and we just run all over them, because I think that was a pretty big weakness for them last year, or at least we ran well against them, and you would figure, they didn't really have that many. Like, they didn't really get, like, another TJ Watt in the offseason, right? If that happened, then, okay, it might be a little bit more questionable. But if they stayed about the same, I think they maybe got a little bit more athletic in linebacker with, is it Miles Jack? Yeah. But he's only one player, and he can only do so much. But I feel like if we go in there and we just run the ball effectively, then they don't have a shot. Like, they're not going to be able to, like, keep it close enough to where they could possibly win it at the end of the game. But I think if we just go in there and we can actually control the line of scrimmage, then it really should just be one of those games where we can just kind of control it and just wait until the dam breaks. And then that's when you're going to see us, like, explode, probably closer to the end of the third or beginning of the fourth quarter, because that's usually how it goes. So I kind of feel like it's going to be kind of sloppy, maybe a little bit at first. Just because, like, people are, like I said, starter-wise, they're going to be trying to get into it, and then it's just going to get to the point where, if they can't stop us enough and we're just able to control the line of scrimmage, then we're just going to break the dam late in the second half.
Okay. Yeah, I can see all that happening.
Plus, I think our defense has always been kind of underrated, especially going into this year. And I really do think our defense got better. Like, if you think about, like, the back end, we got a lot faster, and no one's really talking about that. And then we're going to be able to do some packages where, especially with, I can't think of his name right now, but our first pick, which we predicted, we got that right in one of our mock drafts.
That's right.
The guy from Michigan, Dax Hill. That's it. I think he's going to be a very valuable piece, because, like, I think about, like, dude, when we have Dax Hill and Jesse Bates in the back, we're going to be able to disguise things so well, because they're interchangeable. They can do it all, right? And then I'm sure there's going to be times where we're going to have, like, 3 safety sets, because Von Bell, I mean, if he wants, he can line up in, like, a linebacker position and handle certain things. Now, I'm not saying, like, he's going to do everything a linebacker does, but he's going to have that capability. Like, he's a bigger safety for today's NFL, but we're just going to be able to disguise things so well. And I think that's part of the reason why they probably didn't want to start a rookie quarterback, because, like, you put Kenny Pickett out there, and with the back end of our defense, like, I think it would just been pick central at that point. So I'm interested to see how Trubisky handles everything, because we're going to still disguise everything really well.
All I can think of is, like, way back when, like, I think it was back when he was in Chicago. I think he started, like, the 2019 season where, like, he couldn't throw it to the left, and there was, like, the whole Twitter conspiracy theories, and, like, people were going crazy, like, saying he couldn't throw it left, which is kind of funny. But I don't know. I mean, they're obviously going to try to shore up Trubisky's weaknesses. I mean, a guy on his, third or fourth NFL team at quarterback generally is not elite, right? It's more towards the journeyman backup type that moves that much, especially with the importance of the quarterback position. And you're talking about a team that drafted a quarterback in the first round, so it's sort of like, I think they've got Trubisky. They're probably going to have him try to manage the game. Probably going to have him run around a lot, try to get some first downs running.
I know this is,
Najee Harris is going to run. Right?
They're
going to try to run it.
It's definitely taboo what I'm about to say, but they think they're really better off just trying to tank this year. And I don't know if that's necessarily their backup plan. But I mean, the way they did their off seasons in terms of, like, getting Trubisky, at least having, like, a decent starter, maybe one that can still possibly have potential. But to get Pickett on top of it, I think they really want Trubisky to push Pickett, and if Pickett can somehow start at some point in the year, then it's a win for them. However, they'd be better off like having a higher pick for the next coming drafts. That way they can really solidify other things. Because they're like the way they play and the way they're, I mean, unless they do something really big in the offseason, like they're going to really have to rely on free agency and not really those high value picks. Kind of like what the Bengals kind of were able to do a couple of years when we had our down years, like as we got Joe Burrow. Because when Joe Burrow got hurt, it was really scary because I think at that point everyone knew his potential and they could see like how, and it was just like, damn, there goes our star player. But in reality, like that was kind of a blessing in disguise because had he never got hurt, had what's his face never blew, like had that leg cramp, we don't even get close to getting Jamar Chase. But the fact that now we got Jamar Chase, and so it helps when you have those high quality draft picks and you land those or whatever.
Yeah, but it was still luck though, because Jamar Chase, if they redrafted, where would he go? One
or two. Trying to think who was drafted before him. I can't even think who would be drafted before him.
People went crazy, like the
quarterbacks. That's right. Because well, I guess the thing about Trey Lance is that we don't know how good Trey Lance is going to be, but to me, he's definitely getting picked before Zach Wilson, Lawrence.
Yeah, it was Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson,
Trey Lance,
and then
the tight end. Pitts.
Kyle Pitts. So, but I mean, that's the thing, though. I just don't think that tanking works. I mean, of course, because I think it took luck, right? The Bengals got lucky that the guy that was that good was available at 5, right? Oftentimes, when you pick 5th, the guy you want is already gone, so. And maybe it disguised it because the Bengals were supposed to pick the offensive lineman, right? Penei Sewell. So like,
no, they really fed into that, which I thought was very clever of them. But I don't think there was
really
any doubt.
Usually Dave Lapham goes on the air or gets an interview and says exactly who the Bengals want, and then somebody jumps one pick ahead of him and picks the guy.
I think they fed Dave Lapham whatever they wanted him to know.
They were like telling misinformation finally.
Yeah, I think they've kind of gotten kind of clever with it. So like, because the narrative, like it was an actual 50-50 divide. I was always on the Jamar Chase side. Like if there was no Jamar Chase, then yeah, I'd be like, obviously take the lineman. We got to protect Joe Burrow. But the fact that Jamar Chase was there, I was like, you got to pick him. Like this is like a no brainer. Like it's not even. I don't even know why people are freaking out about this offensive lineman. Well, I get it, because again, what happened to Joe Burrow, and like we knew we had to protect him because we had something really special in the making. But I always go back to that little analogy that we had: is like, would you rather have Jerry Rice or Anthony Is he playing
left tackle yet?
I think he might be. I mean, I think he'll be or end up being like a really solid, possibly a Pro Bowler offensive lineman. Like I don't think. Like he's but I mean, come on, Jamar Chase. Like I think the season that Jamar Chase had last year, I think that pretty much put everything to bed. I think everyone really realized.
Yeah. Well, he got a green from PFF, 77.
I want to say he started off the season slow, and he had like a pretty bad preseason, but I think he's gotten like progressively better over time. But I mean, you have way more of an impact as a dynamic receiver than a dynamic offensive lineman.
Yeah, I mean we talked about that.
Yeah, I mean, well that's the selling point, and I mean there's things that Bengals do really well. We know the offensive line, we don't necessarily do well with that, but when it comes to receivers and like running backs, that seems to be what our specialty is in terms of like drafting. Because like over the years, it just seems like we always have Pro Bowler receivers or running backs,
Yeah.
right?
He's still playing right tackle.
Yeah, see, he's not even a left tackle, so it's like,
Yeah, that to me is crazy that you would debate taking a guy in the top
it seems
5 that
crazy now, but it wasn't crazy then
doesn't play left
because
tackle.
everyone thought he was gonna be the next Anthony Munoz. It was like for sure he was gonna be the next Anthony Munoz, right? The way they were talking about him.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of value, think about it now. We got Collins. He's probably gonna put up about the same numbers as Sewell this year, right? I feel like that, like we did it right. We actually did it right.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess to cap it off, the Bengals versus Steelers. What do you think the final score is going to be?
All right. So I was looking at the odds. The odds say, according to DraftKings, over under is 44. And the Bengals are favored by 6.5. So that says that the score should be around 25-19 Bengals. I think it's gonna be closer. I feel like it's gonna be like a 20-17 kind of game. Kind of for the reasons you're talking about, but I think the Steelers are gonna really try to run the ball, really try to shorten the game. But I think the Bengals, I definitely see them winning, just because I always imagine the end of the game, fourth quarter, which quarterback do you trust more? And to me, it's clear that Joe Burrow is going to carry the Bengals to a win, and then I would expect Mitchell Trubisky to kind of fall short. But that's my guess, 20-17.
I feel like this year has the makings of being, was it our 05 team? One of our most dominant teams that we had offensively.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it seems like we have the makings of that. So I for whatever reason, I really do believe in jinxes or whatever. Like my gut is telling me, like, I feel like it's gonna be like 29-16, or maybe even like 32-16. Because, like I said, it's gonna feel closer than what the actual
16.
Well, I don't like. I want to say 32-16. Like that's really like, but I'm gonna go a little bit lower than that.
It's a weird score. How do you get to 32?
I don't know. It's just that's what I feel.
Okay.
32.
No, I'm just trying. I mean, just for fun. Like, how would you get to 32 points?
I don't know. That's a really good question. There's a lot of field goals, but
10
that's
field
kind
goals and a safety.
of. But I'm going to be a little bit more conservative because it is the first game of the year. It is the Steelers. So I'm going to say 25-16.
25-16.
And I guess that's not really
Okay,
conservative.
How do you get to 25?
Was that I don't know. I'm
3
picking like really
touchdowns,
weird
1
numbers, but I'm going off of like,
and
I don't
one
know.
2-point Okay, so you get 3 touchdowns,
It's
2 extra
21.
points, 1 2-point conversion, that's 22, and a field goal, that's 25.
There'd be no reason to go for a 2-point conversion though. That's the thing. If you're up that much,
Maybe there's a penalty, right?
so you
Like in
would
the
what's
first
2
quarter,
touchdowns and like 5 field goals.
2 touchdowns and 5 field
No,
goals.
that's
That's 15 plus 29.
I don't know.
Unless
I'm still gonna go with 25 because it's just what I feel.
Okay.
Whether it's
And then
logical
they're
or
going
not.
to get 16, so that's easy.
Like,
Touchdown, 3
I
field
really want to
goals.
say 32-16 or 15.
15. How do you? Okay, 5 field goals.
No,
Or
I should say
touchdown,
16.
2-point conversion. Field.
I'm okay. 16. We'll go with 16.
Okay.
Stop being so logical. No, I'm just kidding.
Sorry, I'm
No.
curious.
We'll go with 25 because that doesn't even make sense.
Yeah.
To 16.
Okay, bet.
I want to say
the overall
32 to
number of
16.
field goals,
But
right? Is
But-
there a prop bet for total field goals in a game? We're saying go the over.
yeah, I mean, because I could see him have certain success, but once they get closer to the red zone and the field really gets condensed, like I said, I feel like they're really sleeping on our secondary. Like I feel like we've actually gotten a lot better, especially with Dax Hill. So
Mhm.
like, I do see him making quite a few field goals and it's feeling it kind of close in the first half. But once that dam breaks, the score is going to look a little bit more lopsided by the end of the game. So that's kind of like my feeling. So like 25-16, like I want to say 32-16, even though our scores really doesn't make sense. But I'm going to sit with 25-16 as the final score.
Okay. 25-16.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. Okay. So is that the over 25 and 16? That's only 35, 41. So no. So you're saying under, but the Bengals cover, and I'm saying under and the Bengals don't cover.
Yeah. But can't really bet against the odds too much. So you're probably more right than me, but I'm just going with my gut.
I just hope they win.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I don't care if they just win by a point. As long as they win, that's all that really matters. But I don't know. Again, but then at the same time, I don't want to be overly confident. But I think confidence is good, and we have the makings of maybe possibly having that another like really dominant team that we had back in 2005, or whenever we had that really crazy run.
Yeah. Well, crazy more on during the regular season. I pulled up 2005 team. They lost to the Steelers in the first round.
Yeah, that's when Carson Palmer and Chris Henry got hurt on the same play.
Yeah, I was there. I remember that.
But offensively, that was like a very we broke so many franchise records that year.
Yeah.
But I don't see a season where I just see a lot of our younger players getting a little bit better just for having the experience that we have and the continuity. I think it's another thing that people are kind of sleeping on is that what hurt our past teams the teams in the past is that when we had a good year, we always lost a coach, like a really good defensive coordinator or offensive coordinator.
Yeah, I think the continuity is going to help a lot.
That's huge because it's you keep everything the same. But if we have another year that we had like last year, there's no way we're going to keep both of our offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator. We're at least going to lose one of them, possibly both. Like if we make it to the Super Bowl or win the Super Bowl, which is really too early to predict for that, I feel like, because I feel like the way we should just focus on is winning the division and then possibly getting that number 1 seed.
Yeah.
And then we can start thinking about
distract the team by starting about
you can't get no, absolutely not. We're not that good. I mean, come on.
Yeah. I don't know.
I think this week is going to be a good first test, but I do get a sense that this is the makings of that feel of that really dominant team. Because I want to say 2005, right? Didn't we sweep the division? There was a time or two where I feel like under Marvin Lewis we actually swept the division, and I feel like this actually could be one of those years, even though it's really hard to do.
I don't know that they did because
I know one year they did. I know one year.
I went to a few of those Steelers games, and it was just like they always seem to beat us. Yeah, they lost to the Steelers October 23rd.
In that 2005 season?
Yep.
I know one of the years under
their
Marvin
5
Lewis
losses were to the Jaguars, Steelers, Colts, Bills, and Chiefs. So they almost swept the division. But I do remember those walks back to the car during that season because I feel like I went to both of those games and it was just brutal.
I don't think anything would be more brutal than when we lost in the playoffs, the wild card
That was
round.
pretty bad. That was pretty bad because that play was amazing. The play that they both got hurt on.
I'm talking about when we lost, like when we should have won with our backup quarterback.
Oh, yeah, that was pretty bad.
No, that was really bad because we literally had the game won, but then we fumbled, and then we had like the really weird penalty, which is like it should have been offsetting penalties because
somehow a coach ran onto the field.
Yeah, first of all,
players,
but the one thing I do remember about that
on the Bengals.
No, like being at the stadium and just being able to see everything in like full like the Steelers were like all over the place. Like the team wise, like anything big that happened on the like in the game. Like
Yeah.
their whole team was like on the field. It seemed like the majority of the game, and it just seemed like they were getting away with that type of stuff. To whereas like I feel like that was a problem with Marvin Lewis sometimes is that he was almost too much by the book, right? Like you could
Yeah.
tell like he really cared about having his players disciplined, which is like honorable or whatever. But he never had that edge of like, we're gonna sock you in the mouth. You're just gonna have to deal with it.
Yeah.
Kind of like what
That's
the
why his
Steelers
best
has.
defenses always had a guy that did it, right?
Well, yeah, I mean when Burfict was at his, height with the Bengals and wasn't getting called
Mhm.
for all the ticky tack stuff. I mean, he definitely did things that were questionable, but once
Yeah,
you
I
get that
still
what
remember that time they played the Panthers where, like, in the pile, he had, like, Cam Newton's ankle, and he was
uh
just, like, twisting it, you could see it, I was like,
yeah.
"Oh, some WWF stuff
Well,
going
he
on
did that
over there."
to Newton and then they're tied in. I think in the same game. It was
Yeah, yeah.
Olsen.
I mean, he was definitely playing the wrestling heel, man, he was
No, he
but, I
just
mean, not to criticize him, I
no.
enjoyed having him on the
Well,
team as
because
a player, that was a
as
lot
a
of fun.
Bengals fan, when you're always getting beat up on, it's kind of nice you had that player that people actually
Yeah,
feared,
right.
and he was that guy. But I mean, at the height of Burfict, like one of the plays I can remember vividly was when we were playing the Browns, and like
Mhm,
he hit one of their Browns players so hard, and he caused the person to fumble, and he picked up the
mhm.
ball and ran it for a touchdown to win the game.
Yeah,
Like that was just him. Like he was such like when he did things, like he was just such a game changer. Like people like actually feared him. And it's just weird
yeah,
for at the time for to have a Bengals player that people actually feared.
yeah, I mean, in that game, he was crazy. That was the craziest game. 'Cause, like, I feel like he won the game for the Bengals, like, twice, and then lost the game for the Bengals at the end, right? But really, they should never been in that position, right? Because we had that fumble.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, looking back, it really was the
Trying to run
fumble.
out the clock, you fumble. It's just
Hill,
like,
yeah.
"Come on."
Yeah, no, Hill fumbled. But yeah, no, it was I think technically Pac-Man. No, there's two different penalties. There's one I think was on Perfect that caused the hit on
Mhm.
but then I think there was another one on Pac-Man which ultimately got them in field goal range.
I think they were both on the same play. That's what happened, right? So, didn't Burfict get penalized for
The hit
knocking out for the hit, and then Joey Porter ran onto the field and got into a fight with Pac-Man,
and
and then
then yeah.
Pac-Man got a penalty.
Yep.
And it's just like, well, how's that even
You
possible?
couldn't
Like,
script it any better. Like
right? It's like those should have been offsetting penalties, but then I'm sure like seeing, you know, that hit probably influenced the refs to make sure the Bengals got penalized, but like the 30 yards was excessive. Because that's what it put them like just in field goal range, and
yeah,
then
yeah,
they
yeah,
kicked
that's
the
what
field
it
goal
was
and win.
would.
It's just
That's what it
like
was. It was just
how's that even possible? But it happened.
it's just something that you would assume the Bengals would do
Yeah, felt
at that
normal.
time.
Felt normal. Felt like something that always happens.
But that's what's special about this team too, I feel like, is that with our new head coach, I feel like he kind of has that Sam Weish feel to it. Like, like I don't know. I think we're in a groove, and I think it's okay to be a little bit confident. I don't want to be. But yeah, I don't want to be like overly confident. But if they just do what they're supposed to do and not look too far ahead, I think sky's the limit. It's gonna be really tough too towards playoff time because like it seemed like this offseason the AFC just got super stacked.
Yeah,
Like with all the different
all the
transactions,
quarterbacks moved to the AFC, right? Yeah,
pretty
Russell
much
Wilson came
outside of
over.
Wilson came over. We got I guess the Colts picked up Matt Ryan, which is not like the biggest deal, but
Yeah,
he's I would say an upgrade from I can't think of his name, but guy that came from Eagles. Now he's with the
Carson
Commanders.
Wentz.
Wentz, yeah. But yeah, like he's just it's gonna be really competitive, especially on the top end. I feel like the AFC West is probably gonna beat each other up. I mean, they have potential to possibly have 3 wild cards, but I think their own division is gonna be a gauntlet. But I think they'll get 2 playoff teams, or I'm sorry, 2 wild card spots.
We got like the Broncos and who else?
Chargers,
Chargers,
Raiders,
Raiders.
and they're all good teams.
Mm-hmm.
Just trying to think. What did I say? The Chargers, Raiders, Broncos.
Mm-hmm. I'm gonna lose power to my computer. Gotta double check something.
All right. Is it the Chiefs?
Duh. Yeah, the Chiefs.
Yeah. So I would say Chiefs should be a lock, right? And then
I don't
Chargers
know.
is probably a semi-lock, even though they didn't make the playoffs last year. But
I don't know. I mean, them having to play each other does matter, right?
yeah, I mean, because they're just like I said, they're gonna beat each
So the
other up.
worst team in their division is who? The Raiders?
I don't know. It's
Because I mean, the Broncos' problem for like the past 6 years has been they don't have a quarterback.
the
so now
way
they
I
have a
feel is
quarterback.
that maybe the Chargers are a bit overrated. Raiders are probably a bit underrated, and then we really don't know about the Broncos. Like, I mean, on paper they look good, but if I had to pick a team that's probably not going to make it out of there, I would say the Broncos. Like,
I would say the Raiders.
I don't know. The Raiders did so well considering everything that happened. And then I feel like they actually got better in the offseason. I mean, how do you add Devontae Adams and get worse? I just don't. And then didn't they sign another dynamic edge rusher? I feel like they did.
I don't know.
Like, his name's on the tip of my tongue. Like, I think he's a bit older, but I could see who he is. I just can't think of his name. But he's definitely a really good edge rusher. So I felt like a lot of teams in the offseason, what they did was they got either like an additional edge rusher or like another really dynamic receiver, and they I think the Raiders did both.
Well, they signed Devontae Adams. We talked about that. Chandler Jones.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, maybe they did get better.
I mean, the fact that they made the playoffs last year with everything that went on says a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, Devontae Adams with Derek Carr, I could see them making the playoffs again. I think they did get a little bit better.
Yeah, I don't know.
Are you more confident than with the Broncos?
Well, I mean, it's just like, yeah, you can get better, but then have it not really be reflected in your record, right? Because their schedule got a lot tougher because the Broncos got better, right?
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, it looks good on paper, but I mean, you would have to assume with Russell Wilson, like with the way he plays, and it seems like he's pretty smart as well. Like in terms of like getting people in the right position or always choosing the right person to get the ball to. But
Yeah, he's good, right?
I just don't see like all 4 teams making it to the playoffs, which is possible because like now that they have where you can have 3 wild card spots, but I don't know in one division that I'm sure it's eventually going to happen, but I just don't see it happen this year.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's the Kansas City Chiefs that got worse. I don't know.
Well, I think they got a little bit worse for sure. I don't know how you lose Tyreek Hill in the offense and be just as dynamic. I mean, I'm not saying they fell off a lot, but I don't see where they got better versus the rest of the division or even conference.
Yeah, I mean, but I don't know.
But it's one of those things too. Like when you have Andy Reid and Mahomes, I don't think you're gonna fall too far
That's the
behind.
thing. I just feel like Andy Reid they're gonna score. Doesn't matter. He
Right,
knows
right.
how to find the dudes. I mean, like how many years in Philadelphia did he just get? Every year they had like guys that were not, you know, first and second round picks. Just put up numbers and score points.
Maybe the Chargers is gonna be like the big letdown.
Maybe, I don't know. I mean, they beat the Bengals, so I can't talk too poorly of them. But
Well, they did beat the Bengals, which I think we had a potential winning, but then there was that, if I remember correctly, there was that really big fluke play
there are two
where,
fluke plays.
well, I
There
know the
was
Jamar
the
Chase
Jamar
one.
Chase touchdown where he somehow was like 3 steps ahead of the corner.
That was like a perfect pass. It just bounced off of him, and
Perfect pass, he misses it, and because the guy's so far behind him, that
yeah,
guy has enough time to see it and catch it for the
yeah, like
pick.
it literally bounced right to him and like hit him.
And then I think Mixon like took some ball around the right side, and somebody hit the ball perfect, and it popped out. I can't remember if they picked it up and ran it in for a touchdown or not, but those two things really made a big difference.
Right.
But I mean, I feel like that. I mean, it was like I thought that was going to be a touchdown, and for a touchdown turn into a pick like that, that's fluky. But that's not to say that they weren't good. I mean, they won that game. So, but everybody can't have a good record.
No. I mean, it would make more sense if a lot of the other teams in the conference didn't get better, but it just seemed like
Yeah,
anyone that was decent went to the AFC. It's
right.
like
So you have
AFC
like
got
the
stronger and
AFC
the
West
NFC
has
got
4
weak.
good teams. You know, the Bengals
Bills is
division,
good. Bengals is good. You got to
Bills.
worry about Baltimore.
Um,
People are talking
yeah,
about Miami, which I think
the
Miami
Bills
might.
being good, it makes a big difference because then it's like you have to deal with the Patriots, who always seem to be good, and the Steelers, who are always good, right? I mean, that's like half of the teams you're just rattling off all are going to have winning records. So there's going to be a lot of, I think there's going to be a lot of, parity, I guess, because it's going to be hard for teams to rack up a lot of wins because they're all going to be playing each other.
Yeah.
Watch, I said that, and somebody's going to go like, 17-0.
Nah.
One of the teams we didn't say is going to go 17-0.
I can't see any team going 17-0.
See, you're making it. You're just doubling down. It's for sure going to happen now. Some random AFC South team is now going to go 17-0 because we didn't talk about any of them.
AFC South?
Yeah, you're welcome, Colts.
Nah. I mean, the Colts are probably going to get in the
Matt
playoffs.
Ryan gets some of those shipments left over from Peyton Manning's wife. He starts rubbing that magic lotion on his neck.
Who's in the
Bang.
AFC South? I know it's the Colts and Jaguars.
Colts, Jaguars, Texans, and someone else. Titans. Titans are going to go 17-0. Bang.
Yeah, I still see the Titans winning the division. I know a lot of people are high on the Colts, but nah, I definitely see the Titans winning that division.
I don't know, man. Not unless they switch quarterbacks. I just don't know how you can roll Ryan Tannehill out there again. I mean, they already drafted his replacement. I see a very tumultuous year for the Titans.
I mean, playoff wise, I hope that's the case, but because if the Titans are not doing that well, that gives us.
I mean, they got rid of AJ Brown. You know what I mean? It's just weird, right? The problem is the quarterback. So what they do is they draft his replacement, but then they get rid of their best wide receiver. It's like, well, how's that fix the problem? If you're gonna run out that guy that lost you that playoff game for you,
well, I think part of
get
the problem
rid of
was
your best receiver. I mean, it's just like, what?
I mean, you're
what's
right,
going
but the
on?
problem is that they didn't want to pay him the money that he wanted, so they got something out of him versus just letting him eventually leave.
Yeah, I mean, I get the logic of it. I'm just saying, like, in the locker room, how's that play out? Like, everybody knows what happened, right? They were all there. They saw it. They saw it just like me and you saw it, right?
Yeah,
They're just like, oh, good thing the Titans have Ryan Tannehill. We might lose this game, right?
yeah.
And Ryan Tannehill kept the Bengals in it, and eventually the Bengals won the game, right? And it's just like, okay, so what caused the Titans to not go deep in the playoffs? Their quarterback. So what did they do? They kept him. It's just like,
Well,
well,
I think they,
how's
but
that
the
even
thing
make
is, they
sense?
kind of had to keep him, right? I think after this year, he's a little bit more expendable, but I think
Yeah,
he's just
but
guaranteed
I'm
so
just
much
saying.
money.
I'm just saying. But then you compound that, like you're rolling that guy right back out there, and then you got rid of your best receiver. So he's not going to do better, right?
No, I.
You
Well,
just
they
increase the level of difficulty
didn't
for
they
a guy
get.
that showed you
I'm
that
sure they
maybe he can't
drafted
do it.
receiver high, but I mean, it's not that
Yeah,
easy
but
to replace
you
AJ
don't
Brown
yeah
like
you
that.
you don't replace a really good NFL player with like a rookie and have that guy immediately be as good as the guy that you know
It's just
in that
really hard to find a
vacuum.
Jamar Chase or even like um a Jefferson.
Yeah, but they had other guys, right? It's just like you know.
Yeah, no,
I mean, they're just gonna have to make Derrick Henry run a bunch,
well,
but
which
they
I'm
ran him too
assuming
much
that's what.
last year.
Well, they're gonna do it again this year. They gave him a $2 million pay raise just out of nowhere, so I think he's expecting to get a really big, uh, I guess, load in terms of running.
Yeah,
But the thing
I'm just
is
saying,
that
like
they have really good
they
coaching.
increased the level of difficulty for him too. It just doesn't make any sense.
Well, I think their offensive line is pretty good, so
Yeah, I'm
I
just
think
saying, like, the problem is the quarterback, and
right, but he's still
you
good
just
enough
make
to
it
get him to
harder
the
on everybody else.
playoffs. Is my point.
I don't
I don't
know,
know what they're
man.
gonna do in the playoffs, but
I'm very down on the Titans this year.
I think a lot
I
of people
think
are.
that
But
they screwed up.
I guess I'm more confident than most people with the Titans. Guys still see them win the division, especially over the
Like,
Colts,
why didn't they get Matt Ryan? You know what I mean?
because they still have to pay. You can't pay Matt Ryan and because I think we looked into this because like the Tannehill when they signed him or extended him, whatever, they guaranteed him so much money that like. But after this year, I think he's pretty expendable. So yeah, I mean, I'm sure the writing's on the wall.
Yeah, I don't know. Why didn't they sign Mitchell Trubisky? I mean, it's just like you can't roll out there with
I
the same
don't
thing.
see Trubisky
It's just
being
like the
much better
whole
than Tannehill, though. That's the thing. Like,
it's just like the whole Andy Dalton thing, right? Like I would argue with everybody about Andy Dalton, but seeing the difference between having like a quarterback like Joe Burrow and having Andy Dalton, it's just like I don't know how you roll out like that guy, right? Andy Dalton or Trubisky or Tannehill, right? And then expect to beat like Patrick Mahomes or like Josh Allen or Russell Wilson or you know what I mean? It's
right.
just ludicrous, right? I mean, but if you got a guy and he already showed you that he can't do it, why you're keeping him around is not going to be good, you know. At least if you replace him for like Trubisky, at least you can say, well, he's different. Maybe there's some magic here, right? Maybe we can get lucky. But like to trot out the same guy who has shown you he's just not got it. And then you have to go play Joe Burrow, right? It's just like, okay, they
That's
did
why.
everything right and they still lost.
Yeah. I'm interested to see what happens with Lamar Jackson because it seems like he's holding out for the biggest contract ever, which I think.
Is he holding out? I thought he was playing.
No. I mean, the reason why he hasn't re-signed because I'm
Okay,
sure they're
he's
offering.
waiting to sign
Yeah,
until he
no,
gets more money.
maybe holding out's a bad terminology, but like he does have an offer, which I'm pretty sure it's pretty substantial. But I think the fact that
Yeah.
Watson pretty much ruined everything for a lot of people. Um,
Hmm.
but no, it's gonna be interesting. I mean, the fact that normally the situation is kind of like Bates. Like if they haven't resigned already, then you pretty much know that he's not going to be there long term.
Oh yeah, we should talk about Bates. See, this makes sense. This is what I thought would happen, sorta, kind of maybe, or at least this makes sense, right? You show up, you sign the check or you sign the deal, you get your money, and then next year you either get a giant raise on another 1 year deal or you're a free agent, and then you can sign that big contract, right?
Yeah, no, the problem with him is that he just didn't have that much leverage because he's a safety and he's
No,
on
safeties have been getting paid, but
not relative like to quarterbacks or even like receivers, right? And
mhm.
like if you're one of those positions, then you can kind of hold out and actually have that impact to where okay, yeah, we got to kind of sign you, figure this out, maybe overpay you
Well,
than what
yeah.
you think you're worth, but
You
the
wanna wait until after the draft until you threaten to hold out?
no, I mean I feel for Jesse Bates because it's like
Then you get your leverage. You'd be like, "Oh yeah, I'm just waiting to sign."
but that like
Uh,
but if you think about it, it's just another thing that the Bengals hit on is that you get Dax Hill, who was like overperforming in the preseason. It's like it's almost forcing Jesse Bates to come back because he's like, shit, I can't I can't like not be there and let this other
right.
person like outperform me just by
Mhm.
being there and actually being a playmaker. It's like you kind of have to be there because in order for him to make the money that he's gonna make or wants to make, you got to play. So it's like you
Yeah,
cannot
but I
not
mean, at
play.
the same time, it's like I'm happy for him that he's playing because this is the most
Absolutely.
money he's made in his career. It's like
Absolutely.
you can never get that 13 million back,
That's
and
what I'm saying. Like I
you
feel
would
for
never get
him.
it back.
It's just a really tough situation because it's like a safety that we've like for me, like I always wanted to be on the Bengals because like growing up when you watch it like an Ed Reed or like a Palomalo and it's like, oh man, why can't we get that really dynamic receiver or safety? And then we finally
Mhm.
get one and it's like, oh damn. But then you draft like a Dax Hill, it's just like, oh shit. It's like he doesn't really have much because Dax Hill looked really good in the preseason. I know it's only preseason,
Mhm.
but he shows that he has like playmaking ability. So like
Yeah.
he's always going to put himself in the right position
Mhm.
or a position to make the play. And if you just like, but with them back, it kind of goes back to what I was saying before. It's like we've gotten really a lot better in the back end. So like we should expect more picks. You know, like we should expect like non conversions because like to have Bates and Hill in the backfield or in the back end of the field, like, and we could disguise things because either one of them
Yeah,
can
but I mean,
blitz or drop back.
I think that's like the thing. It's just like that people are going to try to run on the Bengals, right? That's the answer. You have a good secondary, and you have a good quarterback. People want to run it, shorten the game, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna run it, you have to run it on the to the outside. You're not gonna be able to run it up the middle. That's for
Yeah,
sure.
I don't know. I don't know what happened those Browns games then.
Well, the Browns have just a really good offensive line and a really good running back, so they
Yeah,
run it
well,
on anyone. Matter of fact, they
yeah,
have two really good running backs and a really good offensive line, so they just run it
yeah,
on anyone. Like even
yeah.
when they had their third string running back and like they were just running all over the people. Like
Hmm.
I think they had their backup quarterback in too, and they just all they had to do was just hand it off, and
Yeah.
they did
Well, I
well.
mean, I just think that the Steelers and the Browns and the Ravens are all going to just try to run it on the Bengals.
I'm sure they're gonna try it, but you can't be too one dimensional because at the end of the day, like if our offense is really what we think it can be, then you have to put up points. When you run a lot,
Or you just try to keep the ball away and make the game shorter
I mean,
and
yeah, in
score.
theory, but that's not always gonna work, and you're gonna end up scoring a lot more field goals and touchdowns.
Yeah.
Like
No, I
that's
mean,
the difference. That's why you kind of have to pass a little bit or a
well,
significant
yeah, I
amount.
think there's a big advantage to being a passing team.
Well, that's
in the
just what the league
NFL,
is
but
nowadays. It's like you have to
you
be
know,
because it's getting to the
but the
point where
teams in the Bengals division are built to run it, right?
yeah, yeah.
All
I
three of
mean,
them, right? They're running teams. I think. I mean, who knows what the Steelers are going to be this year? But I mean, to me, their best offensive player is clearly Najee Harris, right?
yeah.
And
I
that
mean,
guy's awesome.
that's why like they're really going to have
And
to
then,
invest in the offensive line after this year. I
and
mean,
then
they
and
got
then the Browns. Who's the Browns' best offensive player? Right, Nick Chubb, right?
yeah.
And then it's like, okay, well, especially during the suspension. After the suspension, maybe it's Watson. But when they play him the first time, for sure. And
I
then
think
the
you say
Ravens,
confidently to beat Chubb this year because even after the suspension, like there's no way Watson's going to come in and play at his highest level. It's going to take him a few games to kind of get everything like
well, especially since he's not throwing at DeAndre Hopkins.
that, and like it's going to be almost 2 years before he actually played a real NFL game. So it's like
Yeah.
during like, and then not only that, like the moment he steps on the field, it's going to be hostile any crowd that he goes to because they have so much, ammo to or angst to go against him. So it's like he's always gonna have to deal with a really loud crowd. Like it's eventually gonna die
Mhm.
out over a period of time, right? But I just
Yeah.
can't. It's just really hard to take that much time off and then just be really good again. Like
Hmm.
I just don't see it.
Yeah. And then the Ravens run it a lot, and their quarterback excels at running. So I just think that, that's what the division's going to do.
Yeah, I think the
Or,
Ravens is probably gonna give us the toughest time for sure. But I mean, we pretty much handled the Ravens last year. I know the second game is a little bit more of an asterisk, but the first game they had a lot of their starters on defense, so
hmm
it was the offensive side that was really banged up with the running backs. And their lineman I think got hurt,
hmm
but now I think he's back. So yeah, it's gonna be a little bit of a different story. And then Hopkins or not Hopkins, the guy from Ohio State, Dobbins.
yeah, Dobbins,
Dobbins. Oh
yeah,
yeah. Sorry.
J.K. Dobbins.
Yeah,
There's a K in there.
Dobkins or Dobbins.
No, in his
First name.
first name, he
Yeah,
goes
yeah.
by. Well, I don't know if that's a first name or not, but he goes by J.K. Right? J period K period.
Yeah, no, I thought he was a really good pick for the Ravens when he initially got him. And last
Yeah,
year was supposed to be like his
he
year,
was
and then he got
awesome
hurt.
until he got hurt.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's starting off hurt, but
Well, they're being kind of like coy about if he's really going to start the season. I'm sure he'll be like the way it sounds. I'm sure he's going to play, but it's not going to be like a full workload until like later in the season. Because yeah, you don't want to rush that type of injury, especially as a running back.
yeah. Was it knee or Achilles?
I thought it was a knee thing, but I could be wrong. Because I feel like Achilles, then he should have had plenty of time to come back because he got hurt before the season start last year.
It says a knee injury.
Yeah, because Achilles is like 6 to like 9 months recovery, and he got hurt like before the season, so he should be definitely fully recovered from like an Achilles. But it sounded like he had a pretty serious knee injury because they're not
Yeah,
definitively saying
sure.
that he's gonna like play right away, which I'm sure like they want to get him like acclimated, and then probably by like the third or fourth game, he'll probably be like what you would normally see him as, if I had to guess.
Yeah.
But the best thing is that for them, it's really not going to be that hard to increase the workload because like they have Lamar Jackson, so like he can kind of take the heavy workload early until things kind of like sort itself out.
hmm
Which I'm not saying like that's ideal, but I don't know. He also kind of has to be careful too because like he doesn't have a guaranteed contract right now, so like it only takes one crazy injury and your value goes way down.
hmm
But honestly, I'm rooting for him to have a really good year to a certain extent because the better he performs or the better he looks, it's going to be harder for the Ravens to keep him.
I guess. I don't know.
Well, because I think what's going to happen is that
I
he's
mean,
going to
if
show
he's
how
great this year, what's the difference? What do we care?
it
We have
just
to
must
deal
be a
with him this year.
philosophy thing when it comes to the Ravens because it's like,
No, I'm just saying, like, if he's awesome this year and they can't re-sign him, well, we still have to deal with him being awesome this year.
I mean, yeah, no, I get it, but I mean, you could still technically perform really well and not really push your team to wins, right? I don't know. I guess that's hard to say if you're a quarterback because typically, if you play really well as a quarterback, it usually translates to wins. But long term wise, though, or I guess the next 4 or 5 years, I don't know. I kind of see him in Miami next year. Like I think that's the direction it's going.
Why?
Because
How?
he's from around that area, and Miami's he's willing to do whatever it takes to get that quarterback. They're just that team.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the running back.
No, no,
You're talking
no.
about Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about Lamar Jackson.
I gotcha.
Because if it was the Bengals and they really liked the quarterback that much, he would have been signed already. There's no question.
Yeah.
The impact that he has, but for whatever reason, the Ravens are being weird about it.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I don't know the details. Maybe he doesn't want to sign. I don't know.
Well, he could. We don't know what he's asking for either, too. So that's another big element. Because again, I'm sure whatever the Ravens are offering him is probably a really good amount. But it sounds like he wants to be
but I
paid
mean,
top dollar.
our assumption for Joe Burrow is that he's going to get the biggest contract for a quarterback, right?
For sure. At the time that he signs it, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, like he'll have the highest whatever they do to him at average salary. Probably won't have the highest signing bonus or guaranteed money, but he'll probably have the highest average value, right?
I think he will have the highest guaranteed. It's just it will be over a longer period of time.
But I thought that you had to put the money in escrow immediately. So, like, the problem isn't that the Bengals won't do it. I always thought the problem was the Bengals don't have the cash to do it.
I see where your point, but I think
They need like the league checks to make payroll because they don't have like a great deal of cash reserve. Whereas,
right,
like,
yeah, they don't have
like,
that outside business.
That's why like the Rams are always able to do like these
Well, yeah,
weird
the
things
Rams,
because
Cowboys,
they can
apparently the
just do all
Dolphins.
this. They can do all the guaranteed money because the owner writes the check.
Right. No. No, you're right about that. That's the difference between a small market team that is solely a football team versus like.
Yeah, well, it's not even the market, right? Like the guy who owns
Well, it is.
the Rams was rich before he moved to LA, right? I mean, like he's married to like the Walmart person. Like he's like rich on his own, but his wife is like a Walmart heir. I mean, they just, to come up with $100 million is probably not a significant issue for them. Whereas
No, that's just another business transaction, I guess, for those billionaire owners or whatever. But
right,
for the
because I think
Bengals,
Mike
that
Brown's
contract
primary
is probably
asset
their
is
life savings. they're
right,
putting,
that's what I mean. That's what I mean. It's like these like the owner of the Rams are just like part of the portfolio, right? But there are billions elsewhere. Whereas like the Bengals, it's a family business. Like their money is all tied up in the team. There's no like,
right,
you know,
outside source.
there's no Walmart heiress to like say, hey, you float me $100 million. We need a quarterback. You know what I mean? And that guy has the money on his own, right? But it's like, I mean, it doesn't hurt that, but that's the reason why he's in the big markets because he has the money to.
Well, that's
fix the
another clever thing
situation.
too. That's why it's always better to do like an extension versus like an actual like you reach the end of the deal because like the extension is not as big as when you sign a whole new deal because you're still spreading it over more years.
Or maybe they can time it.
That's why they want to suit him as
like
soon as
coincide
possible.
with like the league year or something. there's got to be a timing element to it, right? Because at some point in time, you get money from the league, right, from the TV revenue and stuff. I bet you that's part of the reason why the extension's like such a good idea, right? Because you're giving a big signing bonus, but then it's like it must time with like the league year or something where like you know what I mean?
Well, yeah, I guess whatever it is going to be top dollar because I mean that's what we did for Carson Palmer. So if we did it for Carson Palmer, there's no doubt in my mind that we're going to do it for Burrow. So
Yeah, no, I that's all I'm saying. I don't I think the guaranteed money is going to be the hang up. Not that they don't want to give it to him. It's just like there's probably only so much cash to put up front. Like the actual like non-guaranteed money that comes in with like the revenue that that the team churns out and that comes from like the TV deals and stuff is probably not a problem for them, right? Because every team is getting enough money to cover their salary cap, right? It's just that it's that cash payment up front that like hamstrings like these teams with owners with less money, right? I don't even think it matters about the market. It's just I think that the savvy, wealthy owners choose the bigger markets because it's, more profitable, right?
oh yeah, I mean, but yeah, and typically they accrue to most of their money anyways from an outside business anyway. So it's not like
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's like an outside, like Jerry Jones has a lot of money from outside businesses, right? So it's just like he could have, you know, I mean, it compounds, right? Like, yes, they have extra money, but then also they know how to, I mean, there's so much there that stadium in Dallas just churns out so much money, right? Like it's a business, right? In and of itself, right? I mean, you can take a tour of it for what, like $30, right?
yeah.
Because we went down there like a long time ago, but I mean, there were maybe 1,000 people in
Well,
there
not only
on
that,
like a Tuesday, right?
there's so
Everybody paid
many other events that's
$30.
already been at the stadium, like the Final Four and like various different uh, bowl games and concerts. So like they're always doing something at that stadium
Right,
where
like, it's constantly
yeah,
generating money, like,
yeah,
it's like but the investment was built to make it into a thing that can constantly generate money, right?
yeah,
Like
yeah,
like like the SoFi Stadium is built like that, like, the one in Vegas is built like that, right? They're set up to where it's not just an NFL only thing, right? It's
yeah,
not
yeah,
10 weeks out of the year generating revenue, right? It is, like, every single day churning out money, right? Like even the on an off Tuesday in August, it's at least making like $20,000 from people just walking around it, right? Like
yeah,
it's not just sitting there not making money. It's either hosting a major concert and making a ton of money, NFL games making a ton of money, and then on off days it's still churning out a little bit, trickling out a little bit of money, right? Whereas like the stadium in Cincinnati, you know, not really being used when it's not NFL game, right? I mean, I think they've had a couple of concerts there, but it's not like every week there's a concert. But that's part of being a small market, right? But it's also this the building itself isn't really designed like that, right? There's I mean like the TV monitor in the stadium, seems like a gimmick, but it's not, right? It makes it more of a place where you can have a concert, right? Because it's set up for it, and they have all the special suites on the ground. It's all just whereas the Bengals stadium is kind of just like a football only kind of venue.
for the most part, yeah. I think every now and then they have concerts there, but
Yeah, but it's not like set up for. It's not. There's nothing special about it for a
no,
concert,
no, it's
right?
not. I mean, I
I
think
mean,
that's why
like,
there's another big push for it to be renovated, which I'm sure it'll get approved here soon. Sounds like they're going to
yeah,
do some significant updates.
yeah. Well, the Bengals stadium, it's even hard to get into the damn thing. It's just, it's just I mean, it's put on that corner of the city where there's like, you know, only one way in and out kind of thing. There's like that big hole right next to it. You know what I mean? It's just you go to AT&T Stadium, there's like a whole compound built around it to like host things and generate money, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, you
No,
know,
it was
like
definitely well planned out. Like they definitely saw it more than just a football stadium, for sure.
yeah, well that's the new trend, right? It's just like the Bears are going to do that. Um the Rams did that, but they're like dome things, right?
Yeah, Raiders.
Because you really yeah, the Raiders, right? Like it's like you realize that you need this thing to be making money every week, right?
Yeah. Well, I think. Is there anything that you want to add, or
No, we should probably end this.
yeah, we went on for a long time, but
Yeah.
it's a good talk.